right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Your host, Hunter Twisdale. I got my main man, Austin Brown, on with me.
What's up, my man?
So today's going to be a fun conversation. We're going to really kind of discuss a little bit of a recap of last week, and we're also going to really touch on the stuff that's going on in Iran right now. So that it'll be fun.
Yeah, man, let's get into it.
Before we start, I want to show a couple videos I want to share with y'all real quick. Let me go pull those up. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I got you.
Cool. Let's see here.
Breaking news. Trump has just authorized one of the fastest military deployments in modern history. Thousands of U.S. troops are now being rushed to critical bases across the Middle East, Qatar, Bahrain, and Iraq. Satellite intel confirms that advanced systems, including Patriot missile launchers and F-22 stealth fighters, are already being positioned. Why now? Because Iran just crossed a dangerous red line. After pulling out of nuclear talks, Tehran issued a direct threat to strike every U.S. base within reach. They didn't hide it. They named the locations, loud and clear. And behind the curtain, things get even more serious. China has reportedly delivered a shipment of strategic weapons to Iran. What's inside remains unknown, but the impact is crystal clear. Israel has raised its alert level to the highest in over a decade. U.S. bases have gone from standby to full defensive posture overnight. But here's what no one is saying out loud. This might not just be a response.
So, got one more to share, but that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't. Do you follow MonkeyWorks? You know MonkeyWorks?
I do not.
Okay, so he like tracks flights and all of that stuff happening around the world at any given time. And last week there was a huge mobilization, even before the bombing and stuff happened. Man, more than a dozen air tankers that were heading over that way. But
This one's this is the last one right here.
yeah,
But you can continue.
no, I was just saying he tracks flights that are happening around the country, and it was interesting to see the mass mobilization of the Air Force that was heading over that way that hasn't been seen in quite some time.
Right.
And I don't know if it was just more preemptive measures or precautionary.
Right. I saw this. I thought this was fun.
It's gonna be
That
another.
was so funny when I saw it.
Yeah, it's gonna be another summer of love, I think they call it.
I mean,
Like
I've talked about. Go ahead.
I was gonna say just like 2020 was, when all of the George Floyd stuff was going on, and mass funding from George Soros and the likes to start these riots, this mass chaos around the country. And you can call it smoke and mirrors, you can call it a distraction, a diversion from what's really going on, and it very well could be too. Just kind of like the stuff going on in LA and this No Kings riot or whatever. But it's the enemy's trying to distract from what's really going on, and a lot of that is biblical prophecy being fulfilled right before our eyes.
Oh, absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly. So viewers, in case you didn't see our stuff before, so me and Austin were both forced out of the military, out of the Army specifically, for refusing the COVID vaccine. So that in our previous podcast, which you can check out my channel and you'll see those, we talk about some things, reasons why we didn't get the vaccine, what happened, the process, as well as Caroline Stanzik and her story about how it almost killed her and she's still struggling with the injuries from that. And today I wanted to talk about the Iran stuff because there's obviously when there's warmongering going around, especially nuclear warmongering, Um, there's going to be talks of a U.S. draft. So that being said, Austin, I'm sure you are aware that when you sign up for the military, you sign for I think it's like 8 years after you get out or something like that, that you can get reactivated for a quote unquote draft. How do you feel about that with the situation going on?
Well, considering the fact that we were forcibly removed from the military, uh, do you think that takes us off our list? I'll answer your question with a question.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I know that they don't know where I'm at, so there's that. But I don't know, man. It's one of those things. It could mean that we're not on the list, or it could be they could see that and be like, oh, they shouldn't even got kicked out in the first place. Yeah, they're good. Bring them back. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Right.
So that being said, let's just assume that you are still eligible. what, what would you do? What's going through your mind as far as that goes?
Well, what would I do? I mean, is somebody knocking on the front door, trying to take me away like they have been doing to people in Ukraine that aren't willing to go and fight Zelensky's pointless war?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's going to be similar to how it has been in the previous U.S. drafts in the United States.
Okay, I'll say this. I will say that if this was the previous administration, I think that is 100% possible. Where we're at now and who we're with now and who we're under, I don't foresee that happening.
Right.
I don't foresee that happening right now. And from everything I've learned in the lawsuit going on to, they can't force us to go back in because of being discharged. That was kind of one of the stipulations within the lawsuit is that no, it's just our benefits that we're getting back what was owed to us, and they can't make us go back in even though our contract wasn't quite yet up.
Right. Um, so let's assume that they did. Like you don't have a choice. What would you do?
Well, if we don't have a choice, I mean, we're just gonna have to cause a fuss then if it's not something we necessarily agree with. I mean, at the end of the day, are we willing to go to prison over it? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. Are we willing to go to prison over it, versus maybe fighting for our country under better leadership
Mm-hmm.
for better reasons, a more of a holy war, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So you just have to you got to pick and choose which hill you're willing to die on. And I don't think I know how to answer that until I'm faced with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I agree. Personally, I don't know what I would do. I know that neither the VA or the Department of Defense knows where I reside, and I want to keep it that way. They can think I'm living somewhere else. I'm not. They don't need to know right now. Um, that being said, if they were to try to reactivate me, I don't think I would do it just because, not that I don't agree with what Trump did by any means. I do think that Iran should not have nuclear weapons, but I don't think it's going to be as much a battle of man versus man like it has been in the past. Um, when nuclear weapons come into play, I don't think there's no winning, you know?
No, it's true. I think the Ukraine-Russia war is a very unique circumstance because they're fighting right in their backyards too. That's why we saw a lot of that trench warfare that was going on, which
Yeah.
hasn't really been seen since, the World Wars. But I think it's going to be a lot more drone stuff. It's going to be a lot more machines versus man or machine versus mean instead of that kinetic warfare that we're used to, face to face with another human being.
Yeah. I think that it's going to be like how the Cold War, how they had that with the whole situation where everybody thought we were going to get nuked, so we thought we had to nuke somebody else. I think it's going to be like that, but more real life. You know what I mean? Not like a little hoax like it was before per se. Um, That being said, I don't think a nuke would hit the United States because I think we have a really great defense for that. But with the all of the countries that are trying to support Iran, such as China, it sounds like, which we everybody knows China is they're our enemy. They've been our enemy, and yet we still give them our money. Trump's the only person that's ever realized that and tried to do something about it, right? But with that many people and that coalition they got going on over there, it's gonna be a difficult fight. Not only with that, but all these sleeper cells that are already in the United States because of the previous administration, you know?
Right, and I wanted to touch on your comment about our defense systems as far as preventing a ICBM or a nuclear missile, payload on one of those coming here. And I think it's very interesting that Trump, in his first administration, created Space Force and the implications of that, and how our the warfare is kind of going intergalactic in a sense, and how those ICBMs, they do have to break through the atmosphere. They do go to space and when they travel. So what's really going on with Space Force? Is it just a defense system? Is it advantageous? Is it a piece through strength, kind of flexing branch of our military where, hey, we're a step up on everybody as far as our military capability and being able to touch any point on the globe within a matter of minutes compared to these other countries that have to go from surface to air to surface. So there's a lot of interesting conversations to be had about Space Force and how they can not just protect us, but I think offer that peace through strength too. So I think Trump had the long game in mind during his first term, and I think we see more of that now with more discussions about having our own Iron Dome system here, like Israel has.
Right. So as far as the Space Force thing goes, man, it's one of those question marks for sure. But while we're on the topic of Space Force, I know you love The Office. There is a show called Space Force with Steve Carell, and it is very similar to the comedy that is in The Office. You should check it out. It is so funny.
I have seen bits and pieces of it. I couldn't get, it was hard to get into because it seemed like it was trying so hard to be like The Office that
Yeah,
it just didn't land. It didn't land quite the same.
yeah. I
But
mean, it's hard to be The Office. I mean, we technically the UK had it first, but the United States version of The Office is just so much better.
oh yeah, no, for sure, for sure.
I've tried to watch the UK version, and it is not that great.
I don't like it either, but I'm sure the UK folks say that about ours.
They don't like us anyways. Speaking of that, did you watch the Parliament thing that I sent you?
You didn't send it to me.
Well, I told you about it.
Well, you told me about it, but you said you were going to send it, so I didn't watch it because you didn't send it.
Well, it was on Roku. I couldn't find it on the park. Anyways, Fox News for all y'all listening and watching. Fox News, they showed the argument between their UK's secretary and the British Parliament, and for the vast majority, they it was interesting to watch because the vast majority of Parliament did not agree with President Trump, and they wanted the secretary to acknowledge whether he agreed or disagreed, and he kept giving the same answer. Hey, it doesn't matter because I'm not the Majesty, and I'm also not Trump. I didn't make the decision. He did. He told us before, and I gave him my legal advice. But I'm not going to say that I agree or disagree because they're one of our biggest allies. I'm not going to answer that. I'll answer it with what I just told you. But no, they wouldn't take that for an answer, and they just kept. Some of them were just stupid. Just
No,
to be honest,
that's true. Yeah.
it was just stupid questions. It's like, I mean, everybody, I think everybody in the world knows Iran should not have nuclear weapons. There's no question about it. But yet continue to make them after they've already been told by the UN not to many times. They continue to make them. And I know Israel is doing the same thing from what I understand. They're also making nuclear weapons. But the difference is Israel does not breed the most terrorists out of any other country in the world. Iran does.
Yeah.
So
I read something interesting yesterday. Obviously, you take it with a grain of salt, but given our last episode, last week, conspiracies, I heard somebody had mentioned that, potential reason that JFK was assassinated was because he did not approve of Israel's nuclear program as well. And so I think that's, another interesting consideration. Is it true? Is it? I don't really know. I don't really care, but it's another thing to get yourself thinking about because Israel, the people are different than Israel, the government, right? There's
yeah,
still people, out there in their government that are being, paid off, told what to do, puppets on a string, just like it is here, just like it is anywhere. That's why we have the UN. That's why the UN is a thing, because it's part of a bigger government, a bigger system, than I think a lot of people realize. And so you just got to be wise, man. You got to be wise as serpent, gentle as doves. That's what the Bible tells us about. And as far as preparedness goes and things of that nature, the Bible talks about it all the time. You're not just supposed to be an ostrich with your head in the sand. You're supposed to be ready in season and out of season. Proverbs 27:12 says, "The prudent sees danger, takes refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." So you have to have that foresight, that wisdom, that discernment to see something before it happens, right? You gotta, not just be like a NPC, a non-player character, just running around in the video game. You're just there. You're just existing with no real mission. And what does the mission look like? While protecting your friends and family, those around you, your community. That's what you have control over. I can't go and tell President Trump what he should or shouldn't do. I don't think I'd want to either. But having that mindset of, being prepared. It's not a fear-based mindset. It's simply having wisdom.
yeah, absolutely. Funny you should bring that verse up. I just want to touch on this for a minute. I think that verse a lot of time is misused throughout the world. What I mean by that is, I think a lot of people use that as a weapon to it is a weapon to kind of use for their own fears of like the doomsday prepper stuff. You know what I mean? I think some people use that and take it way too far. I don't think that's what God wanted. God did not intend to tell you, hey, yeah, the end times will come. You need to be scared and fearful and real ready because one of these days you're not going to be able to buy food. There's a very fine line, and I think a lot of people misconstrued that and take it too far. You know what I mean?
No, it's true. And since we're on that topic now, go back to Genesis and talking about Noah and the flood. That Noah is the biggest prepper in the history of the universe. He had to take two of every kind, but not just the animals. They had to take food as well. In Genesis 6:21, it says, "You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them." Talking about his family, preparing for the flood to come, and everybody thought Noah was crazy until it started to rain, right?
Yeah.
But Noah trusted God and what he said, and that's part of it, is having food prepared for the storm that was about to come. He didn't know when. He didn't know exactly when, but as soon as it started to rain, he's like, "Yep, it's coming. I'm glad I'm prepared." Could you imagine if he was like, he had the boat built, the animals were on their way, hanging outside the boat or whatever. Starts to rain. Noah's like, "Oh crap, man. What are we gonna do for food? I didn't get any food together." No, man. That was all part of the plan too. You have to have those basic necessities. You can't rely on the grocery store because within a matter of hours, if someone says that there's not going to be toilet paper left, God knows what else is going to be gone too.
Hey, can you see me on my laptop?
Yeah, I see you there.
Sorry, my phone got overheated.
Oh no.
Can you see my screen? Like see my face?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, we can continue, I believe.
No, you're good. You look like you're sleeping on the other screen.
That's okay. Anyways, yeah, absolutely. Real quick, I just want to kind of touch on sleeper cells because I think a lot of people don't know what that means.
Go for it. Yeah.
So, sleeper cells are these people that have already started making their way into the United States a while back because of the previous administrations allowing such low border security and high immigration. Um, so, there are a lot of times, most of them are already here. That being said, this is just a conspiracy. Don't take it, take it with a grain of salt. This is just what I personally, from just what I've noticed throughout my life, believe. Um, I'm pretty sure most people can agree with this, and this might sound racist. I'm not trying to sound racist by any means. I'm just trying to tell you what I've gathered and what I believe to possibly be true. I'd say, I think this is probably generous to say 90% or more of the gas stations in the United States are owned and ran by someone of Iranian descent or something like that, correct?
No,
That
I
that
can
being
see
said,
that.
those are a good example of what I would picture as a sleeper cell because as soon as war was to break out and they're like, all right, let's get it. If you've seen Don't Mess with the Zohan, you know exactly what I'm talking about because
Yeah.
they exactly what that was.
Yeah.
It's a good example. But they're like, hey, it's time. We're going to war. They're already in our country, so all of our defenses that's going to protect us is null and void because they're already here. You know what I mean?
hmm
So
No, sir. Go online. Go look up, terrorist or jihadi training camps in America. They're all over the country.
oh yeah,
They have these little camps that they gather at and they train. They
yep,
train for combat. They train for actual terrorist events that are going to take place at any given time. But just like us, I mean, we're either preparing for war or you're actually in war, and they do the same thing. So all it takes is one little message, on a group chat for them to, hit go and it's game on and they go out into the public, inflict mass chaos, and nobody would have known what hit them. So that's something that you just got to be aware of. And I would say it's not even just the last administration. This has been happening for decades, even more so with the last administration because of our open border policy. When you go back to 9/11, those guys came here legally and they'd spent years training and going to flight school and all of this stuff. And yes, there's more to it than just these guys. And that's another conversation to have at another time about the real
that was an
reasons,
instant.
the real reasons behind that. Uh, but these guys come legally or illegally, and it's a lot easier for them to come illegally now. It's just, how it's been. And you know, they could be right under our nose. And you had no idea. And don't even get me started on the shipping containers that come over here and what is in these different shipping containers, whether it's weapons, whether it's people, smuggling people, trafficking people. There's just so much that goes on that the average person doesn't know about, or I think really doesn't even care about.
Yeah, that's this whole topic is why I absolutely hate how the leftist community thinks it's okay to have gun control, not allowing US citizens to have guns because it's not going to prevent these evil people, illegal people, in fact, from getting guns. They're going to get them one way or another. The US citizens, the whole point of the Second Amendment was so that we could use that to protect ourselves from the government or militia. We have to be able to protect ourselves, and that's why it makes me so irritated when the leftist community tries to argue that we shouldn't have guns. Like we shouldn't be able to have an AR-15 because they think that that stands for assault rifle 15. Okay, you're an idiot. First off, because that is not what it means. It is literally the name of who made the gun.
Armalite.
Yeah, thank you. Um, that being said, if we have a war that breaks out tomorrow, what you doing, man?
No, it's true. It's true. And that's why we're talking about preparedness and being prepared before that stuff happens. And I had a post that I put out yesterday is hope isn't being prepared. Like you can't just hope that something's going to happen. You have to take actionable steps in order to be prepared. Whether that's having guns and ammo, whether that's having 6 months of food or more, things like that, where you're kind of uh, you're beating the curve of everyone making a rush to the store, and it turns into mass chaos. And you have to be wise with your finances. If you're thinking about how are you going to pay for things? Well, let's say, cyber attack, the banks are going to shut down. Everything's digital now. Like if people are still trading with cash, you better have cash in hand because you're not getting it out of the bank after that.
No.
Or even better yet, it's another reason why we're stacking gold and silver, having those tangible assets that are always going to have their value and they're going to go up if something like this happens too. We can still trade with that stuff. That's still a viable currency to be used.
There's
But
so my wife, she I didn't mean to cut you off, but Virginia, she was like, "Hey, did you know that this country, like she was talking about Russia and a whole bunch of other countries, like, do you know they just lost their currency?" I was like, "Yeah, that's why I'm in this business because we're
it
next."
happens. It happens all the time. The only reason why it hasn't happened here is because of how big of a powerhouse the U.S. economy has been for as long as it has been. But it's the same as any of those African countries that have a currency backed by nothing too. It's just a paper note. That's why on their little paper notes, you see some of them at like $1 million, whatever, because of how inflated the prices are and how little their bills and their notes actually buy.
No, I remember back in the day, man, like growing up, U.S. dollar actually meant something for the most part. Like you could take a dollar bill and go to Mexico and it's worth significantly more. If you go to that same dollar bill to Mexico, you can't buy anything really.
Right. No, it's true. And I've always said this too. If you're liked by the world or, everybody likes you, you're doing something wrong. Right. So I think that's how we know we're on the right path, is because we're not focused on trying to be like everybody else or doing what they're doing or what's the latest and greatest thing. Is it XRP, Bitcoin, stocks, all of these different things? That's what everybody's doing. Okay. God has told us not to be like this world. We're in it, but we're not of it. And that's why we need to focus on what he's put in right in front of our faces as provision. It's gold and silver, man. That's the currency. That's his currency, and that's been used for thousands of years.
Yep.
So I think there's a big tipping point of society and the human race heading back towards the garden, which means that it's heading back towards the end times, right? Not heading back to, but it's heading towards the end times of when everything will be made new and right again. And the Bible is very clear about us being prepared. Proverbs 21:20 says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but the fool gulps theirs down." You have to have the wisdom to not be gluttonous of what you have, but to have the foresight and the knowledge to know that this might not last forever. So I need to be wise with even the little bit that I have. First
Yeah.
Corinthians, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, and as far as, being more of a watchdog instead of a sheep, I think that's what our mission should be, especially as men. 1 Corinthians 16:13, be on guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong. 1 Thessalonians 5:6 says, so be on your guard, not asleep like the others, which means that there are people asleep. There are people that don't want to wake up. But stay alert and be clear-headed. What does that look like to you?
I mean, it's just spiritual discernment, man. You have to stay in the word, because if you're not in the word, you're not, you're in the world. You know what I mean? If you're not in the word, you're in the world. You have to stay in the word. You have to stay consistent with your faith so that you can have that spiritual discernment to know what the end times looks like. Because without knowing the word, you don't know what the end times looks like, and you don't know how to prepare for it. I mean, it says in Matthew 24, that is where it mentions the rumors of war. Right now, there are rumors of war going on. This is signs of the times, just like all the other things that have been going on for many years. And I mean, we don't know when Jesus is coming back. There's not a single person on the planet, and somebody says that they do, they're liars, because it says in the Bible, no man knows when that time will come. But as Christians, we know the signs of the times are now. They're showing up now. Things are coming into place. Prophecies are being fulfilled. So we have to be prepared now, because you don't know.
Oh, you froze again. Your phone overheated. But he's absolutely right. We don't know the hour of when Jesus is going to return or when all hell is going to break loose. So you have to be prepared before it happens. You don't want to get caught in the middle of the rainstorm without a jacket. It's better to have a jacket and not need one instead of need one and not have it. As Hunter gets resituated here, I need to bring something up that I wanted to share. Let's see. Eight.
Where'd I lose you at? I think my phone died.
No, you're good, man. You were just talking about being prepared. You don't know the hour or the time that Christ is going to return or when the next disaster is going to happen.
We'll throw this in the fridge. You can continue.
No, you're good, man. But one of the guys, the evangelist at our church, Evangelist Larry, he does a show every week now. He started about a month ago called The Rapture Show. And all he's doing on there is he's talking about end times prophecy and where we're at and kind of the timeline and what things are happening and what to look out for. And so there's a lot of talk of the Gog and Magog wars and the alliances between, like Russia, Iran, and China, and how they're going to be coming from the east and attacking Israel. And it's very interesting to be. It's almost a blessing, to be a part of what's going on. It's a great time to be alive because there's going to be such an outpouring and a blessing that comes upon the church too, a reaping of the harvest of souls, of prosperity for us as believers, and those that are walking in righteousness. But those that are walking in unrighteousness, it's going to be getting even worse. And it's such a blessing. And as I've grown up, and when I was a kid too, I never really ever had an inkling of like feeling like I would meet death face to face on earth, that Jesus would return before we passed away. It's funny because this was just a random conversation that I had with my wife before we got married. Was she felt the same exact thing, and then even my parents, my mom has said that too. And I know I don't remember the exact scripture verse, and I need to, but talking about how the last fig will not pass away, meaning the last person from the generation of Israel becoming a nation again, that last person will not be killed, won't see death until Jesus returns. And that generation, I think, is probably about in their 80s or so now. And it's just cool to think about that it could all be coming to a beautiful end sooner than we think.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, for those watching, We're not saying this stuff to scare you by any means. And God doesn't he doesn't give us a spirit of fear. He says over 365 times, which is very important because that's how many days are in a year. Do not fear, do not worry. He says, do not worry about tomorrow because days has enough worries of it for itself. So we have to remember, we need to have this spiritual discernment about what's going on in the world. But that doesn't mean you don't live your life. You still need to enjoy what you got going on. Enjoy your family. Don't tell your kids there's no point in playing football and trying to go play football in college or try to go to the NFL. No, that's, I don't know what. There's a lot of people that think that way. That is not what God wants us to do. God still wants us to live our life. We just have to be prepared for when that time does come, because we don't know when it's going to come. We do know it is going to come. We do know that there are things going on in life right now that are lining up with what has been consistent in the Bible that is supposed to happen in the end times. That being said, there's a common misconception about when that's going to be, and I think the biggest reason being is because nobody knows what God meant, what Jesus meant when he said he was going to come back in 3 days. Again, it says in the Bible, it's mentioned how 1,000 years in heaven or on earth is equal to 1 day in heaven. So I'm not going to say that he'll be back in the year 3000 or anything, or 3035 or whatever, but we don't know what that looks like. It's doesn't give straight answers, and there's reasons being behind that is because he doesn't want us to live with a spirit of fear. He wants us to live our life, and we shouldn't have to accept God out of fear. We accept him out of love and how gracious he is and how much he gives us in his mercy. We don't accept him out of fear. And I think a lot of the churches, man, they try to scare people into being Christians, and that's not what it's about. You're supposed to let them know, hey, man, you're sinning, but not, hey, you're sinning, you need to stop or you're going to hell. Like, no, you're sinning. Let me help you do better so that you don't have to live the life that you're living. You can live with the fruits of the Spirit, and you can go to heaven with me.
Yeah. No, you nailed it,
man. That is one of my biggest fears, is that when I get to heaven and one of my closest relatives or friends, I'm walking up to the pearly gates and I'm going in, and then I turn around, and my buddy, I'm just going to say John. I don't know what John really, but John's like, hey man, what about me? Are you coming? Like, can I come with you? And it's like, dude, I tried to tell you. You know what I mean? That is such a big fear of mine, that somebody in my life that means a lot to me will not be able to witness the beautiful streets of heaven with me. You know what I mean? And they're going to have to spend eternity burning and in pain and suffering, man. That is just
right. It's true. That's why we do what we do, and we want to bring as many people along with us as we can. I think too many people, this conversation we're having is fantastic. I think too many people hang their hat on it, though, and they want to be the guy that says that they know when this is going to happen, that's going to happen, yada, 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 whatever. We can't approach it with that perspective. We have to approach it with, it's an exciting thing. It's a joyful thing. It's something to be celebrated, but you can't let it get in the way or rob your salvation of it because you want to be right. The only thing we should be doing right now in the last however many days, years, seconds that we have is trying to bring more people along with us. Like you were just talking about, is that you don't want anybody left behind. That's the only thing we have to worry about. The moment we think that we're somebody special or that we got this, important word for all of YouTube to hear, you're doing it wrong. You're making it all about yourself at that point. You need to be focused on soul winning and bringing people along with you that you don't want to see go to hell.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. I think a lot of people, especially in the church, forget about that. That was literally Jesus's command to us, was go out, spread the gospel, and bring people to me.
That's it.
But
That's
nobody, but people say that no, evangelism's not for me. I know Noni talked to Virginia about this. Evangelism's not for me, and Noni's like, yes, it is. It's literally for everyone. That's the only thing Jesus said that we needed to do.
right.
So,
Right. That's all we have to do. Yeah, we make it so freaking difficult.
it's so simple. It's sharing a good idea, man. It's almost like a really good system that I know about.
Which system might that be?
I don't know. It's some system with gold and silver, man. Just sharing a good idea.
Yeah, it's I think I know that system you're talking about, and that idea has changed my life.
Yeah, me too, man. For those watching, it's a little backstory on me. My wife and I, you can kind of see where I'm at. I'm in our camper. We're at a house right now renting, but we're actually leaving on Sunday, and we're going to be living, me, my wife, and my two kids with our dogs. And we got a really nice camper, and we're going to travel the world full time to share the gospel and share about God's money. So, because of this company that we're working with, I was able to do that, and it has been such a blessing um, that I can be with my kids full time, travel the world, which I've always wanted to do. Learn. I'm gonna have a blast. I mean, my life from now on is gonna be business expenditure, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. Uh, so if you want to learn how to do that, it is so daggum simple. You can reach out to me or Austin, and we'd love to help.
No, absolutely, man, absolutely, and we'll see. We'll see about joining you guys on the road someday too.
Dude, that'd be lit. That would be so fun. Yeah. It's an opportunity like no other, 100%. And I wish everyone in my life would listen and do it, because they would, and not just join the company, but actually do what I've talked about doing, about how you can make this a business. If more people would do it, more people would be appreciative. You know what I mean? I
It's
think
true.
I think there's a misconception with especially our company, but with gold and silver, um, it's not just for like some people. It's for everyone, just like the gospel. Uh, I don't know about you, Austin, but I know that the Bible does not want us to be poor.
That's a fact.
What is it that the Bible actually says contradicting that?
For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to give you a hope and a future, plans to prosper you and not harm you. There are so many different places in the Word where God tells us to put our hand in the plow, to be prosperous, and all of these things, and that His blessings are going to be so overwhelming in my life, in your life, that you won't be able to contain it. But everything comes down to this one principle, and that is that you reap what you sow. That which a man sows, so shall he reap. Whatever that is. If you whoever's watching, if you want to sow good vibes, you can expect good vibes coming back your way. And it's a super popular term to use, so that's why I used it. But the same thing goes with finances. If you sow financially into people, there's a 100% guarantee that you will reap financially by supernatural means through the Lord.
Man, he literally says that it's going to be pressed down, shaken, and pouring over when you give.
Yep.
That doesn't mean he's going to take what you got and crumble it up and you'll get the same amount back. That's not what that means. That means it's going to be like a pitcher of water that is up under a faucet that is never going to turn off.
Yeah. And why God talks so much about giving too is because, and that's why it's mentioned more than like anything else in the Bible, money. That's why it's mentioned so much. It's because he knew people would have such an issue with it. Are they trusting money more than they're trusting God?
So
Because
number one,
both of those things provide. One of them runs out though. The other
Yep.
one doesn't. So he needs you to separate your heart from your finances so he can have your heart.
Yep.
That's the biggest issue. And so that's why it's so important that you tithe, that you give offerings, because it has to cost you something. You need to show and demonstrate with your heart that the money isn't more important than he is.
Yep.
And that's how we do it, right? And in doing that, he's able to bless you with more because you've entrusted with him to be your provider. So then he wants to give. He's like a good father. He's a good father, right? A good father wants to give his children gifts, right? But if his children are being disobedient or they don't trust the father, why would the father be ever inclined to want to give you something out of the goodness of his heart? It's just
Right.
it's just not how it works.
Yep. So a really good example I heard that I would like to share with you real quick, and then we'll get off. But I heard this thing, and it's kind of changed my outlook on how important giving is. In the Bible, what does God call the church?
Body.
Well, he calls it that, but he calls it his bride, right?
Yes.
For example, let's say, hey, Austin, I set up a trust that when I die, you're going to get $1,000 a week every single week for the rest of your life. But the only way you're going to continue to get that is if you take $10 at a minimum and give it to my wife, Virginia, when I die. You would agree to that? Yes, you'd be like, absolutely. That's exactly what God is doing. God is giving us our finances, and yet we're not using that money to give the 10% he calls for at a minimum to his bride.
Yeah.
That
That's good, man.
I heard that and I was like, man, that really puts stuff into perspective, because it's like if I died, I'd want my wife to get that, like I think that's completely reasonable.
That's awesome. No, it's true. And before there was even anything written into the law, Abraham chose to give the 10%.
Yeah.
He chose to give that 10%. I mean, for everybody having a religious cow out there about friggin' 10%, you should be thankful that he didn't say 20%,
Yeah, right.
you know? But Malachi 3, verse 8 says, "So should people cheat God?" And it says, "Yet you have cheated me." But you ask, "What do you mean? When did we ever cheat you?" And he said, "You have cheated me of the tithes and offerings due to me. You are under a curse, for your whole nation has been cheating me." Give God what is already his. It's not yours to begin with.
Yep.
Give him what's his. And it's 10%. He gives you 90 to do whatever you want with it.
Yep.
I want to get to the point of where we're living off the 10% and we're giving the 90. You know what I mean?
Amen. So that's one thing that you hear a lot when you bring up giving offerings is, man, I don't have the money. I only make some odd. Let's say they make $1,000 a month. Like they're struggling to pay their bills. I understand. So you make $1,000, you can't give $100.
Right. Or even, okay, let's say they don't have money. Let's say they literally don't have money. Say, I can't give anything. Here's an example I heard. Okay. Pull out the pocket in your jeans. There's some lint in there, right? Give them what you got, even if it's the lint in your pocket, because you can't do that. You have a pride issue. There's something much deeper seated and deeply rooted in you that you have too much pride to even give that.
He doesn't say that he obviously. There's a story in the Bible where there's a woman who didn't have anything but still gave.
Two mites.
Yep. So that being said, you don't have to, if you can't financially, you don't have a single dollar to your name, but you still feel like you need to give, you should. And that being said, say you own a dead gum homestead or something, and you have eggs, go give them to the church, give them to a shelter, give them to something. Say you can make bread really easy. Give some loaves of bread to the shelter, give it to the church.
Yeah.
There's other things other than money if you don't have money to give.
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
will bless you for it 100%.
It's true. And one thing we help people understand our church too, like give your time and your talents as well. That is just as big of, if not an even bigger offering, because it's a gift God's already given you that you've had since you were born.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's not to be buried, it's not to be hidden. We all have gifts, we all have talents. I don't care what you say. You have something that nobody else has. And you need to share that. So anybody that says they can't give, that's crazy, man.
That's crazy, man. Let's see here.
Recording in progress.
Oh. There we go. All right, there's my hobbit hole.
There you go. Well, yeah, man. I mean, you got anything else?
I think so, man. I've got to go round up a goat actually.
Oh,
So
no.
it got out and is at the neighbor's house, so I've got to go get it.
Roger that.
But if anybody enjoyed this video, please share, like, subscribe, and comment. And we do one every week, guaranteed. As well as if you are wanting to understand some fun stuff about how you can learn how to survive and survival tactics and things like that. I started another YouTube channel called Wilderness Disciples, and I'll also have that as well on here, that you can reach out on there and watch some of those videos. Pretty interesting stuff about how to purify water with a little water bottle thing I got, how to start fires, just fun stuff. As well as when me and Austin can hang out soon, we're gonna teach some survival tactics as well, as far as let's say that the sleeper cells did start a war from the internalness of the country, and there's a EMP, and we don't have any electricity or nothing. We're going to teach you how to protect yourself and your family, as well as provide for them while having to forage or something like that. So that'll be some fun stuff coming up on there. If you want to learn about gold and silver, or you want to talk to us about that, or how you can learn how you can grow a business and start making money so that you can travel the world with your family like I'm doing, or if you just want to talk about God or anything like that and you have any questions, you can leave a comment, or you can click the link in our description. I've got my link for my website as well as Austin's link for his website, and we'd love to help you. Austin, you have anything else you want to add, bud?
No, man. I'm good.
All right. Well, I'll holler at y'all next week. God bless. Love y'all.